EC's stable of artists included some of the most talented men ever to work in the field. Gaines gave them top billing, allowing them to sign their pages, and even publishing their biographies inside the front cover. More importantly, he gave them creative freedom.
Early on, I said to Bill, you know, most comic books have a kind of a sameness to them. I said, what we've got to do is encourage our artists to write in their own handwriting, not to imitate, but to each have their own style.
The styles ran the gamut from squeaky clean to gothically grotesque. Into the latter category fell Graham Ingalls. A painter by training, Ingalls developed a special knack for horror, which earned him the nickname Ghastly.
Graham Ingalls was the greatest guy at drawing walking dead, pieces of flesh falling from bodies. He had this way of getting a texture on the people he was drawing that no one else ever got with this rotten comic book reproduction. Somehow you just felt things oozing out of pores when he drew things.
Graham Ingalls had this way of drawing people, and he made them look like melting wax. There was a feeling of decay about his drawings that was just so appealing in a very kind of under-the-skin way. I remember looking at his drawings when I was a kid and imagining I could smell it.
At the opposite end of the terror spectrum was Jack Kamen.
Jack Kamen was an illustrator, a very straight kind of illustrator, and he did very pretty girls. Everybody was nice and handsome. I called him the father knows best artist.
Kamen's style was best suited for EC's crime stories, which typically involved love triangles. EC often borrowed plot elements from James M. Cain, whose novels Double Indemnity and The Postman Always Rings Twice were made into very successful movies.
Do them. Fix everything for us.
What? Pray for something to happen to Nick?
Something like that.
Both Postman and Double Indemnity featured a gorgeous wife who plotted with her boyfriend to kill her husband. Kamen stories usually included both of these elements.
I'm going to kill her, Jean, just like you want. I've made up my mind.
It's the only way, darling. The only way. I knew you'd finally see it.
Of course, in EC's world, as in Kane's, the wife and boyfriend would usually get it themselves in the end. Somewhere in between the styles of Ingalls and Kamen fell EC's other main artists, Johnny Craig and Jack Davis. Craig, the senior member of the staff, was one of the few artists who also wrote his stories. He became the man behind the Vault Keeper, illustrating all of the covers for the Vault of Horror.
Johnny Craig's characters had these severe perspiration problems whenever anything bad happened around them. And you could kind of feel that through the page. You almost felt the page would get damp from all that sweat dripping on it.
Unlike Feldstein and Gaines, who often poured on the gore, Craig focused on the terrors of the mind, the psychological aspects of horror. Considered EC's most popular artist, Jack Davis specialized in physical horror. But Davis, who would later become a highly successful humorist and commercial artist, also had an inherent comic style. He imparted a light touch on even the most horrifying scene.
I love to draw cartoons, and I'm not an illustrator. I think sometimes your illustrators draw just, you know, the stark thing right there. But if I see something, I'll put a cartoon movement on it, an action movement that I would put on a cartoon and exaggerate maybe the hands and the feet and the expression, you know, and really go at it.
That guy just makes me laugh. Even when he's drawing a gross out, he just makes me laugh. There's just something about Jack Davis's stuff that really blows me away.
probably all of the artists who drew for EC did their best work of their careers during that short time that they were at EC. And that was no accident. That was because Bill found out what they liked to do, and they built the stories around that.